Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the virtual breakfast sessions. I'm Larry Sashin, and today we're going back to school again to visit the not the hospitality. They'll explain it to you later. We're going to visit Montclair State University. But before we do that, let me thank the people who are paying the bills. Era Group and Ed Flanagan. Listen, if you're tired of paying all those employee taxes, call Ed Flanagan and the Era Group in their 125 cafeteria plan, sponsored by the IRS. Will help you claw back some of that money that you've been sending off to Washington and wherever. So call Ed Flanagan and the Era Group. Back to our show, Montclair State University. Before we do that, let's speak to the people from there. Michael, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Michael Burbella. I have been was a chef for 25 years. I was a graduate of the Culinary Institute of America. And then I spent about 11, 12 years in Michelin star restaurants in New York City, such as Gramercy Tavern and Gotham Bar and Grill. And then I lived in Europe for 5 years and worked in 2 and 3 star Michelins in Italy, France, Spain, and Switzerland. And I came back. I was the executive chef at the Metropolitan Opera House, and I did a career pivot. I went into public health and nutrition, and now I am the director of nutrition and food programs for a nonprofit in New York City, and I oversee 17 buildings. And I'm an adjunct professor at Montclair State University, and I teach 2 classes.
Thank you. Thank you. Charles, say hi.
Hi, I'm Charles Feldman. I'm a full professor and a Fulbright scholar at Montclair State University. My field is food systems and food studies. I was brought to Montclair State about 23 or 4 years ago as to run the food service management program at that time, which was part of a dietetics certification. Since that time, I and my colleagues, we've changed the program. It has been morphed into first it was food management, and then it was food systems, and now it's sustainable food systems. We changed the program to meet the needs of the students as those needs change, and we could discuss that a little bit.
All right.
Our department also, a very holistic department, very unusual, that we cover all the bases. We cover culinary courses that Michael does a great job at. We also have a big certification of dietetics program. We also have a very big food science program. We work with various corporations as well as a food systems program and an applied nutrition program. So we cover all the bases.
All right. Thank you, Charles.
Yeah.
Fred, say hi to the folks.
Good morning, Fred Clashman, editor and publisher, Total Food Service.
All right. And once again, I'm Larry Sashin. So Montclair State University. Charles, you touched on this, and you mentioned how it used to be the traditional hospitality culinary program, but you switched because of the needs of the students. Explain those needs and the opportunity of Montclair State University.
Okay, so we had students who came in for food service management. Generally, these students worked in the field. They came to us because they wanted to improve their standing. They wanted to get better jobs. They want to have a future. We generally, county colleges handle those type of applications and culinary type of courses. We felt that we need to differentiate ourselves and give our students better opportunities. We got the same students that go to restaurants and look for and work in restaurants, and many of our students do work in restaurants, but they wanted to get something more because they feel that the restaurant feels very temporal. There's a glass ceiling that you can't reach over, and we thought maybe we can get them something else that was a little bit more geared to a future outlook.
So what kind of jobs are we talking about that they when they leave you, where do they go?
They go into industry, they go into manufacturing, they go into food science. They get benefits, they get vacations, they get regular working hours, things that we couldn't provide them in a restaurant setting. So again, we deal with county colleges that provide an education where you can get into the restaurant business. Um, you can get to a certain point in the restaurant business. Maybe if you work for a change, you can be district, you can be regional manager. That's a possibility. Again, the hours, the return on investment for an education, we didn't see it was there at our level. So we've tried to get the students a little bit more through our relationships with big corporations that we deal with.
All right, thank you. So, Michael, how
Yes.
do you fit into this picture?
So I had worked as a chef for about 25 years, and I did a pivot. I went and got a master's degree in food systems and nutrition. And then I got another master's degree in nutrition and public health. And I saw there was an opportunity at Montclair State University as an adjunct professor. And Dr. Feldman gave me the opportunity and hired me. And I presently teach two classes. So food preparation and hold on a second. It's food composition and scientific preparation, where I work with a lot of food science students, and there's a lecture on food science, and then we break out into a lab in groups and perform recipes and experiments. And I also teach a molecular gastronomy class entitled Edible Innovations for a lot of students that are going to be food scientists. And I find it very satisfying to teach with the students, to give back, to listen to their needs, and to work with them and to guide them.
So talk a little bit about the world of food science. It's kind of something new for us. Talk a little bit about, is it something that a CPG company is attracted to? What are the opportunities that lie in food science?
If I can address that. New Jersey is the food science, food flavors, and food technology hub. Um, uh, Either the first or second in the United States. I believe California is also. We have over 450 corporations that either do with manufacturing, food science, or flavor development, or ingredient development. So we're situated, and that's one of the reasons why we pivoted from hospitality towards that direction, because we can get students jobs. There's a great need in that area. Um, and we get the same students, when the students come here, they're the same exact students that go to restaurants and work in restaurants. And we have a lot of our, at least my students, that are waitresses, bartendresses, bartenders, etc. They come, and I keep hearing, and at a lot of our meetings that we have, about issues with help and how that it's hard, and particularly with new immigration problems, the future of labor. We have those students, and they come in, and we open their eyes to a whole bunch of things that give them a future that I don't see the restaurant industry doing. And our students, they stick around for 4 or 5 years. A lot of them get masters. They don't stick around in restaurants that long, but they stick around here, and then they're same quality when they come in. So I think we're doing something right in at least guiding them in a pathway that leads them to a better future that I think restaurants need to do.
Okay.
So what is it we can learn as an industry from the training that you're doing that the restaurant community can adopt and adapt, that would be helpful and help get us out of this, what appears to be like a vicious cycle?
Right. Michael, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's just communicating with employees and finding out their needs and working with them. I had worked as a chef for 25 years, and I think 2 of those years I only got 2-week vacations. I could never take a 2-week vacation I would have to take Monday to Thursday off.
Yeah.
I never had sick days. If I called in sick, I didn't get paid.
Yep.
I never had personal days. I couldn't take off. I didn't get paid. I went like 15 years without health insurance. Um, I was, I started in the 90s. I was on salary as a line cook, making like minimal pay, working
Mm-hmm.
60 plus hours a week. It was just unsustainable. I became a chef in the early 2000s, and I was just working 60, 80 hours a week plus. Again, I couldn't take off, and I just felt that it was unsustainable. And I made a pivot and I went back to school. There was just I just felt like it wasn't sustainable to continue into my 40s and 50s, late 40s and 50s.
So Charles, I like to call this not everybody can be Bobby Flay.
Yeah,
Is that an accurate description?
sure. I believe that. I think that now with social media and all these TV shows, it's giving somewhat of a false impression of the celebrity life and everything when, it's definitely hard work and it's a lot of labor and it takes a lot, and restaurants run on small profit
Mhm.
margins, and sometimes if you call out sick, there is no one there to do your job because, restaurants are they're short-staffed. They can't afford to pay a lot of help to have extra help around. So, it was very hard. If I called out sick, people would be like, why are you calling out sick? We needed you. And it's it's very difficult, very difficult.
So take us into the classroom and walk us through the curriculum of what these students are learning. Is it chemistry? Is it math? What are the nuts and bolts of learning food science?
Okay, so it's not just food science, food systems. Um, just jumping on what Michael said, he pointed out a lot of problems, but I'm going to talk about a little bit about solutions. Number one, our students work very hard. We're a commuter school mostly. Most of the students come here, they take 4 or 5 courses, and then they work a job. So they're working hard. The question is, why do they still come to class and do all this type of work? They're doing 78 hours a week. One of the reasons I think, and Michael can validate this, is that we encourage them to come up with solutions. We encourage them with projects, ideas, stimulation. I find that students are very interested when they can do research, when they can come up with new ideas, they could come up with solutions, that they're part of a project, they work with teams, things of that nature that generally I don't think happen in restaurant situations. So buy-in, they have skin in the game in their research, and they're working together with other students and working with the professor side by side and learning, and we call it experiential learning, working together to come to solutions, be part of the solution. I think that's really important in instilling a buy-in from students. That's
So
Yeah.
let me ask you a question then.
yeah.
We hear all the time about Gen Z. When they go to an interview, the first thing they say is how much I'm going to make
Right.
and what kind of benefits do I have and all these other things. In a typical hospitality culinary interview, you ask what kind of benefits you get. You're going to look cross-eyed and you'll hear the crumpling of the paper of your resume going into the garbage. This is a completely different type of student. It's not the artistic student who wants to be the next Bobby Flay or wants to be a great chef or pictures themselves owning all these restaurants and the romantic side of culinary and hospitality. This is the nuts and bolts. This is someone who's looking for a career in the industry that they can grow with and get paid immediately. Am I on the right track with this?
Well, listen, when you're in today's market, you have to pay rent, you have to buy food, you have to commute. So there's justification in someone asking about salary and benefits. I mean, it's needed today. like I said, I worked for 12 years or 10 years without health insurance. I had to pay out of pocket. And I lived in like 2-bedroom apartments with 3 people. That, I don't recommend people doing that in order to get by working in a restaurant, because at the time I wanted the experience, but times have changed and you need to work with people. As a cook, when I was a cook, I never had any input. I just went to work and I was told, do this, and follow this recipe. Where at Montclair in our classrooms, we interact with students, let them work on projects and get feedback from them and find out what they need. And that when I worked in restaurants, that was non-existent.
The average house price in New Jersey, I think, is
Yeah.
around $600,000,
Yeah.
and the average renter is paying like $2,000-3,000 a month in rent. And working in a restaurant's not going to do it. I think there's got to be more of an idea of profit sharing and idea sharing for the future of the restaurant business around here. Anyway, I mean, I can't. Who's going to work in a restaurant? Where are you going to live?
Yeah.
Right.
I agree with that. How can you take a 2-week vacation? A lot of places you can't get vacation, you can't get health insurance,
So is
paid
this
days
a
off.
is
How do
this
you
a
how do
tr-
you
you know,
how do you function in a daily life if something comes up and you have to take care of something? You don't have personal days or sick days in
so
small and independent restaurants.
let's spend a couple minutes talking about what some of these jobs look like. In other words, do I go to work for a city health and nutrition department? Do I go to work for a manufacturer and work and figure out beef tallow? In other words, what do these jobs look like?
The jobs our students are getting right now,
Yeah.
they work in quality assurance, they work in flavor development, they work
Okay.
in different research applications, they work in distribution, um, all across the board.
Got it. And what goes on? Just go back to the curriculum for a second. What type of classes prep them for
Okay.
this?
Okay. So one of the benefits come to Montclair State in our food program is that our students get the core courses cover nutrition, food science, food systems, agriculture, and culinary. They get everything. They get everything. So they know the whole picture. They get business management also. So they get the whole.
Charles, what's a food system? You've mentioned that a couple times. What's
The
that?
food system is from farm to table.
Okay.
Including all the distribution,
Right. Right.
processing,
Okay.
agriculture, and everything.
Yep. Okay.
So they get that. They get the whole picture. I mean, they don't specialize in an area, but they get the
Right.
whole picture. So they're equipped now to go into a number of different fields.
And a
Now,
lot
is
of
this
them
2 or
need-
4 years?
Um, Actually, it's 4 and 5 years.
It's
4
4 and
years.
5 years.
4 years for undergraduate. 5 years you get a master's, combined undergraduate and master's.
and a lot of
Or you
students
can
do
do
an
a
intern.
master's.
A lot of the students do an internship.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to do an internship.
Now, you said you help with the placement when it's time for them to get a job.
We have a office that does that.
Okay. So,
They don't place them in jobs. They facilitate internships, and they have a list of jobs that the students can look at.
And I'm
What are the
assuming
sizes?
there's been a high conversion of internship into a full-time job.
I would say maybe 50-50. I don't know.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. What is the size of the classes when they're going there? I know you're teaching labs. It's got to be smaller. Give us an idea of what a student goes through. Is there lecture rooms? Is there classes? This is new to us.
Okay.
So,
All right. So Michael teaches a culinary recitation lab with seats and full set of culinary equipment.
Okay. How many students?
I just got done teaching a food composition and scientific preparation. I had about 16, 17 students in my class. The first hour and 20 minutes is a lecture on specific topics, and then the students break out into groups, and we have four lab stations that are equipped with stoves, countertops, and everything, all the equipment. So there's about 4 students per group, and they work as a group. They work together, and they speak to each other, communicate with each other, and work on the recipes, and work together. And I speak with them, I get feedback with them, find out what they need, what they're looking for. We talk about the preparation, like we were working with chocolate and adding different amounts of cocoa butter and looking at the final product when it was set. So we have discussions. There are lab questions. They get a lab recipe when they start. I have them read over the recipe before they start to get organized, to speak with each other and just form communication and feedback. And it's great communication, and the students love it. I very much enjoy teaching at Montclair and working with students.
That's the culinary lab, right?
Mhm. That is the food science.
Oh, the
Yeah,
food science.
that's one of the labs.
So I'd like to explain our laboratories. We have a food science recitation lab, so where students can learn experiments and work at wet lab, benchtop stuff. Then we have a culinary lab, which has a full set of commercial kitchen equipment. We also have a research laboratory, which is broken down into 3 different rooms, which is a wet science area, a sample preparation area, and a sensory analysis area. So we have a number of different labs and classrooms also. So our students get a lot of lab experience, whether it's culinary lab or food science or nutrition, biometrics, and those
So
things.
give us an example of what goes on in some of those labs. Are we, like, I see the word chocolate behind you. Do we work on chocolate one day? Talk a little bit about what that looks like.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we were melting chocolate and tempering chocolate, going over the process. And then we're adding different amounts of cocoa butter with different applications. And then we were looking at the final product, how it was set, the sheen, the snap, everything that has to do with the amount of cocoa butter and chocolate. I also teach a molecular gastronomy course for students going into food science. So we're going to work at corporations. So we work with things like agar-agar and other products. We were making, that you see sometimes on the culinary programs, caviar and spearification. And then I work with them and I have them develop dishes on their own. They work on their own projects to incorporate the techniques that we make in a lab, and they present final products of dishes with recipes, the history, utilizing different techniques. So that's a lot of fun. So they develop everything on their own. I ask them questions and work with them on what they're interested in preparing and making and learning more about. So we work with that. Yeah, it's a constant communication and feedback on what they're looking for and what they need and what they want to work on. So I'm asking them a lot of questions.
As on another level, we also have students doing research in the research labs, doing, for example, the antioxidant properties of raspberries when incorporated into different type of recipes. We have students doing sensory analysis of drinkable versus spoonable yogurt. We have another one who's got an ingredient from Peru, and she's looking into the various nutritional properties of that to be incorporated in things. So we go on that level, foods on that level also.
Okay. Well,
Fascinating.
you opened up a whole new set of doors for us over here. Go ahead.
I think when I went to culinary school and I cooked in the 90s, when you went to culinary school, you became a chef, and basically they were your options. But now, I mean, there's with getting a food science background, there's so many more opportunities with food and with ingredients that take you beyond restaurants, that offer a much more fulfilling and financially stable career. That it's incredible what you can do now. And getting that base of an education at Montclair State University will open a lot of doors for your career within food systems and food science and other aspects of the industry.
We get a lot of students that come, well, not a lot, but many of our students come from restaurants and they want to get into product development.
Mhm.
They want to take those recipes that they learned or what they learned in the restaurants and they want to put it in and they want to mechanize it and get it to markets. So that's a step up from what they were doing.
Now you mentioned this is sort of like an entrepreneurship type thing. When you're talking about I've learned this recipe, I'm going to bring it to market. Do you teach every step on the way to getting it from concept to
Yeah, we do market development and quality assurance and labeling too.
okay.
Yes. So I have one of my students is worked as a Michelin restaurant out in I think Arizona or forget, and she was working as a sous chef and she had a product and now she wants to bring it into our lab and scale it up for mass production. So we get students like that too.
You know what I think of is I think of the value to the distribution community. Chefs are sick and tired of order takers coming in to call on them every day. The idea that somebody could come in with some molecular gastronomy and be able to help me figure out how to serve raspberries properly, et cetera. I mean, I think it's an unbelievable skill set to have.
Right, and I think that's what's missing from a lot. I think some really big restaurant corporations do research into product development, but on the street level, no. It's just like wing it.
Yeah. So
It's
what are the other
value.
thing? I mean, the other thing I wanted to ask is there's obviously been things that have come to market uh, with the current administration in Washington, like beef tallow and discussion of food coloring. In other words, all of a sudden, the processing and science of food is a hot political topic. How has that impacted what's going on in the classroom and what students have to say?
Well, we have to be careful because we're a state institution
Yeah,
and we get government funding.
yeah,
That's no,
Okay.
but we try and we just tell students to seek the truth and based on science.
got it.
Okay. You just answered that question emphatically.
Yeah,
So, you know, it's I sad to say, but I just want one more comment and one more idea coming out of you people. Um, I see this as a major shift from the artistic end to the professional end. And I see the people that you turn out are not just, they're not going to go in a line cook. They're not going to become a waiter. They're not going to become, assistant manager of a restaurant. They're going to become a cog in this gigantic wheel that runs the food industry.
but you know what, Larry? They're going to
Yeah,
stay in the industry.
that's right. That's what
Good
I'm,
chance you
Oh,
were going to lose them. They're going to stay.
You're going to
and,
stay. That's right. That's
and
right.
they won't have to spend one day in 110 degrees sweating their what off, making a living. And I think this is directly in line with the ideas and values of today's students going to college. That it's more now, it's not an artistic whim, it's a profession. It's a profession that they're seeking. And I think you guys illustrated it wonderfully because all I have to say right now is time is always our enemy. Charles has heard me say this many times. Time is our enemy, and we have to look at the clock and say we have to start wrapping this up. But before I do that, I want to thank Ed Flanagan and the Era Group. Listen, you get orders every day and they hand you invoices and they hand you there's boxes and you're running at 100 miles an hour in your business. Do you really have time to count everything and to make sure that everything is right? If you don't have that time, you should be calling Ed Flanagan and the Era Group. Their people will sift through your invoices. They will sift through your contracts and make sure you're getting exactly what you wanted and at the price you agreed to pay. And if not, they will show you ways to get what you want at the price you want. So call Ed Flanagan in the Era Group. Guys, thank you for being here today. It was wonderful. Like I said, you opened up a whole bunch of new doors for us today. But before we go, Charles, give me that one bit of information that students that are thinking of food in their future, not just at the dinner table, but food as a profession, why they should be calling Montclair State.
I think a lot of students, as Fred said, they come into a restaurant. They like the idea of food. They like the industry generally, but they want to stay in the industry, and they're looking for opportunities to stay in the industry. And we give them a broader perspective of what areas they can go in.
Okay. Thank you. Michael, enlighten us.
Yeah, I think for long-term sustainability within food, Montclair offers great opportunities to build a career. And as an adjunct professor, I enjoy working with students, getting feedback from them, looking for what direction they want to go, helping them, communicating with them, and guiding their career where they can find something fulfilling and long-term within working with food and food systems and nutrition. And I think Montclair offers that fully, the full range of that.
Okay. Fred?
I think this is another example of a road to finding a career that will be AI proof. No matter how much AI there is, you're still going to need people that can think these things through. I love the fact that there's a program out there like this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you for spending time with us today. You've enlightened me. I can't speak for everybody else, but if you could enlighten me, you can enlighten anybody. So listen, and now everybody knows what food systems are. It's only two things left to say. Everybody, stay positive, test negative, and we'll see you again. Have a good one.
You.
Thanks for being on the show, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
Thanks, fellas. Good.